There have been 5 sets of twins and a multitude of brothers in general to make the NBA, but we are witnessing the 6th set of twins and the first set to ever get drafted in the top 5 in NBA history. The Thompson twins have a chance to make history in the NBA, and their path to the NBA is one of the most unique we've ever seen, but it's set to pave the way for future prospects. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to be talking about Amen and Assa Thompson, who are going to come into the league this year as the first set of twins ever drafted in the top 5 in the same draft, after going 4th and 5th respectively in this draft. First, we got to start off on how they got to the NBA, and I'll tell you what they're going to see in their first season in the NBA, stats-wise and minutes-wise, and give you a little preview on how they're going to play this year. Going into their senior year, both had offers from some big-time schools, and they are ranked 30th and 31st in the 2022 class. But they chose to forego the traditional route and commit to the Overtime Elite League, which was in the midst of their first season. The first time I had ever heard of the Thompson twins was their announcement video on the OTE page in the summer of 2021. They could have taken the traditional path, gone to one of the schools that offered, including big name schools like Kansas, Alabama, Arizona, just to name a few, and they probably could have landed in the late 1st or 2nd round depending on playing time, but they took the risk with a new league, and clearly it has paid off tremendously. They ended up spending 2 seasons with the program, taking on some top teams in the country, including playing against big-time players like Bronny James, Cam Boozer, and Jared McCain. Assa and Amen Thompson played together their final season in the league and won the championship with each other, with each brother hitting a game winner in the series. They looked phenomenal in OTE, with both averaging over 20 points per 40, and Assa averaging 11.7 rebounds per 40, and Amen averaging 3 steals and 2 blocks per 40. The one question mark they have going into this season, which was on a lot of their prospect rankings and just their overall draft folders, will that quote-unquote drop in competition come back to hurt them, as they didn't take the traditional route like we've seen with other college athletes. Their athleticism speaks for itself, but both are going into very different scenarios, so let's see how each one will look going into their rookie seasons. Now, first off, we'll talk about Amen Thompson. The 4th pick in the draft this season will be going to the Houston Rockets, who had a huge overhaul this offseason. On top of drafting Amen, they signed Dillon Brooks and Fred VanVleet to huge paydays and hired former Celtics finals coach Ime Udoka. After signing VanVleet and Brooks and having the young star in Jalen Green, I see Amen coming off the bench for either guard role, and it seems like he is leaning towards 20-ish, maybe a little less minutes to start the season. Through the camps and preseason, Ime Udoka has said he's been very impressed with him, stating that the athleticism that he has really shined through. Thompson is one of those players who won't fall victim to starting off in a bad scenario like we've seen with another player like Jalen Green. Green was drafted high, thrown into the starting lineup almost immediately, and after being drafted by the Rockets, his development took a little bit of a hit in my opinion. Now, he has jumped past some of those curbs, and he's looking good, but when you're thrown out to the Wolves like that and told to be a playmaker and score from the jump, it's just not realistic for most rookies. Amen will benefit from coming off the bench, playing with veterans, and not having the pressure of being the guy to start his career. He has unlimited potential with his athleticism and build, and could easily make his way to more minutes by even the end of this season, but in the future, for now, it seems like he should be comfortable coming off the bench behind VanVleet and Green and making plays on both ends of the court. He does have a big future ahead of him, and I'm a fan of him and both of the twins in general, but I don't really see him coming for the starting lineup anytime soon, which again, isn't necessarily a bad thing. Now let's talk about Assa. Assa was drafted with the 5th overall pick to the Pistons, and it seems like his role is going to be a little bit different to start the season. He's going into the Pistons team with Cade Cunningham running the 1 and potentially Jaden Ivey at the 2 with Bojan at the 3. Now, Assa has an easier path to a starter day 1 than Amen, as we saw him start in the preseason and play 39 minutes total in their first game. Now, the preseason isn't a tell-all, but with their new coach Monty Williams, they might put Assa in there instead of Ivey. Depending on where you look, people either love this or hate this move. I've seen big reactions from both sides. Jaden Ivey had a very solid rookie season, putting up 16, 4, and 5 on good shooting, but it seems like there's still some question marks surrounding him, especially in the defensive department. There is also talk about Assa starting over Bojan, and with his lingering injury, the rookie could start next to Cade and Ivey. It's a very interesting dynamic to say the least between who is going to start, but if the lineup remains the same and Ivey and Bojan start, Assa could see a similar 20-ish minutes off the bench. It'll be interesting to see how this continues to develop, but it seems like Ivey could be coming off the bench for Detroit unless Assa really messes up in the preseason. Now, many Pistons fans don't seem too happy, as I stated earlier, but the upside on both ends will end up helping Assa. If he starts, we see a jump in his career to begin, as he can develop as a defender from day one and start to improve offensively without having to be the number one guy right away. Both Thompsons have elite athleticism and defensive prowess, and Assa could show this off from day one if he ends up in that starting role. I could see Assa possibly taking Ivey's role due to the defensive factor, where Ivey was one of the worst defenders in the NBA last year, and possibly putting him on the bench as a point getter, as a sixth man, could be what they're going for here. If Assa does slide into the starting 3 spot, then he will have the assignment on one of the top offensive players pretty much every game from the get-go as well. His shooting is still a big work in progress, so I don't expect him to put up massive numbers from day one barring a starting role, but the ability to rim run with that athleticism should fare well for him, and combining that with a great defense should help his fast break numbers as well. He has the potential to start from day one, where Amen doesn't at this point, and he could easily put up better numbers by the end of the year because of this. Both prospects have a very different route to becoming stars in the league, which is going to be the first time that we see that. They have played the 1 and the 2 for every team they played starting next to each other almost all of their careers, but now one could be coming off the bench day one and one is on the brink of being a starter. The NBA is all about opportunity, and these guys have very different ones to start, but they both have the talent to get their shots very soon. I've been a big fan of these guys since they announced they're going to OTE, and I've watched them very closely through the draft process. They're raw, but they have the ability to become stars. I think Amen has a little more potential to become a star than Assa, just due to his tools in his bag already, but I don't want to take anything away from Assa. Amen is built more like a Ben Simmons, LaMelo Ball type at this point, at 6'6" and a primary playmaker and a great defender with that freakish athleticism is going to be great to watch. Assa has all the tools to become great, and I hope he does gain that starting role and we get to see him thrive from the jump. Both guys have a lot to figure out, but the building blocks have already been placed, and once they get their opportunities to thrive, I fully expect them to take them. And with that being said, we have reached the end of the video. I want to know down below, who do you think is going to be better by the end of this season between Amen and Assa? Like I said, Assa probably an easier route to starting, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything in the end. Amen could easily make his way up there too. So, if you guys have enjoyed this, make sure to go down below, leave me a comment, let me know what you think, subscribe if you haven't yet, make sure to hit that like button, and I'll see you guys in the next one.